The first light creeps across a frozen valley as smoke curls from the dying embers of last night's fire. A young woman pulls a fur cloak tighter around her shoulders, rubs warmth back into stiff fingers, and gently nudges glowing coals beneath fresh branches. Nearby, a child crouches beside her, tracing footprints left by rabbits in damp earth, while an older hunter slowly scans the distant tree line with a stone spear held low. No one gives commands. No voice announces today's work. Instead, every pair of eyes studies the land, listening for birds, watching shifting clouds, and smelling the wind for signs of rain or predator. One careless decision could leave the group hungry before sunset. Scientists believe this flexibility, rather than strict routines, allowed ancient humans to survive environments that changed almost every day. But here's the strange part. Uncertainty didn't always mean constant struggle. The morning grows brighter, but nobody rushes away from camp. An older woman unwraps smoked meat saved from 2 days earlier, tears it into smaller pieces, and passes it from hand to hand while children gather berries growing near the edge of the clearing. A hunter kneels beside fresh deer tracks, presses his palm into the soft mud, then quietly shakes his head before walking back toward the fire. The trail is already too old. Chasing it would waste precious energy that may never be recovered. Survival was rarely about staying busy. It was about choosing when not to move. Researchers suggest many hunter-gatherer groups avoided unnecessary risk because a failed pursuit could cost more calories than it returned. Every decision balanced patience against hunger. And then something unusual happened. Doing nothing sometimes became the smartest survival strategy of all. By midday, the camp appears almost still, yet dozens of quiet tasks unfold at once. A man scrapes fat from an animal hide with careful strokes of a stone blade, while another sharpens the chipped edge of a spear until flakes scatter across the ground. Nearby, a grandmother twists dry grass into cord, as a young girl copies every movement with clumsy hands. Someone feeds the fire before the flames fade. Another carries clean water from a nearby stream, pausing to listen after hearing branches crack in the forest. None of these actions bring food today, yet each one may decide whether tomorrow's hunt succeeds or whether winter nights remain survivable. Archaeologists believe much of prehistoric life revolved around preparing for dangers that had not yet arrived. This changes everything. Survival often depended on yesterday's preparation, not today's heroics. Clouds gather over the valley, and a cold wind sweeps through the trees. Instead of marching into uncertain weather, the hunting party stays close to camp. One woman rocks a restless baby beneath a shelter of hides, while 2 teenagers stack fresh firewood before the coming rain. An elderly hunter slowly repairs cracked spear bindings with strips of animal tendon, stopping only to stretch aching shoulders. Everyone keeps glancing toward the darkening horizon. If the storm lasts several days, stored food will disappear quickly. If it passes by morning, fresh tracks may appear across soft ground, making the next hunt far easier. Scientists believe ancient people constantly adjusted their plans to changing weather instead of following fixed schedules. Wait, what happened next? The greatest risks often began only after the storm finally ended. Morning mist clings to the grass as 4 hunters leave camp before sunrise. One points toward faint hoofprints pressed into wet soil, another crouches to touch broken stems, while the others tighten leather straps around their feet and begin a steady jog across open ground. Hours pass. The animal never stops for long, and neither do they. Sweat darkens their hides despite the cool air. Their breathing grows heavier, but they keep following the trail over rocky ridges, through shallow streams, and across patches of loose gravel. Every step burns precious energy that may never be replaced if the hunt fails. Researchers suggest persistence hunting depended less on speed than on endurance, observation, and remarkable patience. A single mistake could erase an entire day's effort. Scientists didn't expect this, but the greatest weapon humans carried may have been the ability to keep moving when other animals had to stop. Darkness settles over the camp, and orange sparks drift upward into a sky crowded with stars. Hunters lower strips of fresh meat onto wooden racks, while children squeeze closer to the warmth, rubbing tired legs after a long day. An older woman pokes the fire, sending glowing embers swirling into the night, and a young man begins acting out the chase with exaggerated movements that make everyone laugh. Outside the circle of light, unseen animals call from the darkness, reminding every listener that danger has not disappeared. Yet inside the fire's glow, fear slowly gives way to shared memory. Anthropologists believe evening conversations often expanded beyond practical survival, becoming opportunities to pass on knowledge, strengthen trust, and imagine worlds beyond immediate experience. But reality was far stranger. The fire protected more than bodies. It may also have protected the stories that held entire communities together. The next afternoon, a woman sits beside a flat stone with a handful of small shells collected days earlier from a distant shoreline. She carefully drills tiny holes into each shell, threads them onto a strip of fiber, and lifts the necklace into the sunlight before smiling quietly. Nearby, another person crushes red ochre into fine powder, mixing it with animal fat before painting bold lines across an arm. Children watch closely, collecting bright feathers and smooth stones of their own. None of these objects can fill an empty stomach or frighten away a predator. Yet archaeologists continue discovering ornaments, pigments, carvings, and musical instruments at prehistoric sites across multiple continents. Researchers believe these creations strengthened identity, friendship, and cooperation within growing groups. And then something unusual happened. What looked like decoration may have quietly become another tool for survival. Small boy follows several adults through a woodland clearing, carrying a miniature spear almost as tall as himself. He copies the way they step over fallen branches, kneels beside fresh animal tracks, and reaches toward unfamiliar berries before an older sister gently pulls his hand away. Later, the children laugh as they throw tiny sticks at tree stumps, pretending to hunt, while nearby adults repair baskets, scrape hides, and occasionally offer a silent demonstration instead of spoken instruction. Every game hides a lesson. Every mistake is corrected before it becomes dangerous. Scientists believe prehistoric children learned largely through observation, imitation, and participation rather than formal teaching. Skills accumulated slowly over thousands of ordinary moments shared with family and neighbors. But here's the strange part. The future of the entire group may have depended less on the strongest hunter than on the patience of those willing to teach the next generation. A sharp whistle cuts through the afternoon air. Two scouts freeze beside a rocky ridge, then slowly crouch behind a cluster of bushes. Across the valley, another group of humans walks along the riverbank carrying spears, woven baskets, and small children on their backs. No one rushes forward. No one reaches for a weapon immediately. One hunter raises an empty hand, while another quietly gathers the youngest members of the camp farther behind the trees. Everyone waits, watching every movement, every expression, every step. These strangers could become trading partners, future relatives, fierce competitors, or a deadly threat. Archaeologists and genetic evidence suggest that encounters between different human groups varied enormously across time and place, ranging from peaceful exchanges to violent conflict. This shouldn't have been possible, but some of these meetings may have changed the human family forever. The valley that offered food only weeks earlier now lies silent beneath a blanket of frost. Hunters lift heavy packs onto their shoulders, mothers wrap sleeping children in thick hides, and older members stamp out the last campfire before anyone looks back. Familiar trails disappear beneath snow. Rivers freeze along their edges, while herds drift toward distant grasslands beyond the horizon. Staying put is no longer an option. Every migration carries fresh uncertainty, unknown landscapes, hidden predators, and the possibility of finding nothing at all. Scientists believe Ice Age climates could shift dramatically across generations, forcing communities to adapt again and again instead of settling into predictable routines. Survival belonged to those willing to move before desperation arrived. But something changed. The greatest challenge was no longer finding food. It was finding tomorrow's home before winter closed every path. After several exhausting days of travel, the group finally reaches a sheltered grove protected from the wind. Packs are lowered onto the ground, sore feet are rubbed beside a crackling fire, and children fall asleep before finishing their evening meal. A young hunter quietly checks the camp's edge one last time before lying beside his family. During the night, he wakes naturally, adds another branch to the fire, and listens as distant wolves howl beyond the darkness. For a while, a few adults whisper softly, sharing observations about animal movements and tomorrow's route before sleep returns. Researchers suggest that natural sleep patterns before artificial lighting may have been more flexible than many people experience today, with quiet periods of wakefulness during the night. Recovery was never laziness. It restored strength for the next unpredictable challenge. Wait, what happened next? Humanity was about to choose a very different way of living. Generations pass, and the rhythm of movement begins to slow. Along fertile riverbanks, families scatter handfuls of seeds into freshly cleared soil, pull stubborn weeds from the earth, and build fences to protect growing crops from hungry animals. Children who once wandered behind migrating camps now spend long days carrying water and guarding fields that cannot move when danger approaches. The harvest promises greater food security, but only if floods, droughts, insects, and raiders spare months of hard work. Researchers believe agriculture emerged gradually in different regions rather than through a single moment of invention, bringing both remarkable opportunities and difficult trade-offs. Permanent settlements supported larger populations, yet they also demanded repetitive labor and constant maintenance. But reality was far stranger. The freedom to leave was quietly disappearing, one successful harvest at a time. The village wakes before sunrise, but this morning feels different from the wandering camps of the past. Farmers shoulder heavy digging sticks, bend over endless rows of crops, and pull weeds hour after hour beneath a relentless sun. Nearby, smoke rises from crowded houses as children carry baskets of grain while elders grind seeds into coarse flour. Broken fences must be repaired. Stored harvests must be guarded. Wells must be maintained. Poor season no longer means moving elsewhere. It means everyone faces the same failed fields together. Archaeologists have found that many early farming communities showed increasing signs of worn joints, nutritional stress, and infectious disease as populations became denser. The same settlements that offered stability also created new vulnerabilities. And then something unusual happened. People were no longer adapting to the landscape. Increasingly, they were adapting to the lives they had built themselves. The fire burns low as the final embers glow beneath an open sky much like the one our distant ancestors knew. A child reaches toward the stars while an older storyteller quietly points across the dark horizon, where tomorrow's journey may begin. Somewhere beyond the firelight, unseen animals continue their nightly search for food, just as humans once did for hundreds of thousands of years. Scientists do not believe prehistoric life was an untouched paradise. Hunger, injury, cold, and loss were constant companions. Yet the archaeological record suggests that people also found time to laugh, create, teach, and care for one another between moments of danger. Their lives were shaped by uncertainty rather than schedules, by changing landscapes rather than fixed calendars. Perhaps that is their greatest legacy. Survival was never only about enduring another day. It was about remaining deeply human while facing a world that never promised tomorrow.